Hello students, today we are going to read chapter 17. The topic is breathing and exchange of gases. Now all of you know that most distinguished feature of living organisms is breathing or respiration, and only living beings breathe or respire. You have heard I have used the word breathing synonymously with respiration. This is wrong. Respiration is much more than breathing. Breathing is exchange of oxygen from atmosphere with carbon dioxide produced by the cells, whereas respiration is the catabolic process in which nutrients like glucose are broken down into carbon dioxide and energy is produced in the form of ATP. Now, first let us define what is respiration. So, respiration is a process that the body uses to release energy from digested food, and the digested food here is glucose. So, we can have an equation of glucose with oxygen leads to the production of carbon dioxide, water and energy is released. So, from where we are getting glucose? Glucose we are getting from the digestive system, oxygen we are getting which we take in during breathing, then a carbon dioxide is the waste product, water is also the waste product, and these two are exhaled and the useful product ATP is produced. Now, this type of respiration it is called as aerobic because energy is released in presence of oxygen. Now, how do the glucose and oxygen needed for aerobic respiration get to all the body cells? Now, first of all let us see the equation for respiration. So, one molecule of glucose combines with 6 molecules of oxygen to give out 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water and 36 ATPs they are formed. Now, gas exchange is essential because metabolism requires oxygen and produces carbon dioxide. Now, in the muscles there are certain changes which occur. So, if there is glucose, the muscles aerobic respiration takes place, there is release of carbon dioxide and water with large amount of energy. But in anaerobic respiration in the muscles, glucose it metabolizes to lactic acid and that causes fatigue. Why? Because there is small amount of energy is released. Now, muscle conditions when this occurs, when there is muscle fatigue, lactic acid builds up, muscle cramps, there is lack of ATP, and soreness when there is rip in the muscle. Now, before understanding the mechanism of respiration, let us first be aware about the respiratory organs. You will appreciate that with the evolution of organisms, respiratory organs have also evolved from lower organism to the highest organisms which are the human. Now, let us see how this has occurred. In porifera, which includes sponges and coelentrates like hydra, flatworms, oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged by simple diffusion over their entire body surface. Annelids, for example, earthworm, they use moist cuticle. Now, insects they respire by the tracheal tubes and there are spiracles in the insects which open into the tracheal tubes and then respiration takes place. Now, aquatic arthropod and mollusks they use gills for respiration. Now, let us come to vertebrates. Fishes they generally respire through gill. Now, they have gill arc and when the water passes over the gill arc, the oxygen from the water is taken inside and the carbon dioxide is given out in the water. Now, reptile, birds and mammal they respire through lungs. So, we can see the diagram depicting the respiratory system of human being. So, there is the external is nostrils, then it goes through the larynx, then there are trachea, then bronchus. It divides into two, one entering the left lung, another to the right lung, and the lungs they fit in the pleural cavity just above the diaphragm. Now, the airways beyond larynx can be divided into two zones. One is the conducting zone and the other is the respiratory zone. Now, oxygen is transported from lungs to the tissues in the blood. Plasma and RBC are helpful in transporting the oxygen. Water present in plasma has poor solubility for oxygen, so it carries only 3% of the total oxygen. Most of the oxygen, say about 97% of the total oxygen, is transported by red blood cells or RBC. Now, RBC has a respiratory pigment, hemoglobin, which combines with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin. Due to high affinity of hemoglobin with oxygen, almost all oxygen are transported in this form from lungs to tissue. Oxyhemoglobin compound is highly unstable compound and thus can dissociate quickly as it reaches to the tissues. One hemoglobin molecule contains 4 heme group and each heme group can combine with oxygen. Therefore, one hemoglobin can combine with 4 molecules of oxygen. A normal adult person has 15 gram hemoglobin per 100 ml of blood. 1 gram of hemoglobin can carry up to 1.34 ml of oxygen. 100 ml of blood contains about 20 ml of oxygen. Now, transportation of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is the waste product which is produced in the body as a result of tissue respiration. Since carbon dioxide is very toxic, it is essential to remove out from the body. Carbon dioxide is transported from tissue to the lungs in the following ways. In the form of carbonic acid, carbon dioxide combines with water of RBC to form carbonic acid. The process is catalyzed by an enzyme, carbonic anhydrase, found in RBC. About 7% of the total carbon dioxide are transported in this form. Now, in the form of bicarbonates, carbonic acid quickly ionizes to form ions, that is bicarbonate and hydrogen ions. Bicarbonate ions are pumped through RBC membrane into plasma. Carbon dioxide is carried from tissue to the lungs through plasma. About 70% of carbon dioxide are transported in this form. Do you know which class of vertebrate I have missed? Yes, these are amphibians. Because in amphibians, in addition to the lungs, moist skin is also used for respiration. In the form of carboaminohemoglobin compound, carbon dioxide combines with amino group of hemoglobin to form a complex caraminohemoglobin compound. About 20 to 23% of carbon dioxide are transported in this form, and this respiration is called as cutaneous respiration. Now, our main focus is on respiratory system of highly developed mammals, and that is human. So, human respiratory system, as I have discussed earlier also, it starts with nostrils, then goes to the pharynx through larynx, then trachea and bronchus. Bronchus, it divides into primary, secondary and tertiary. This is the conducting part of the respiratory system. Then bronchioles, alveoli and lungs, which is forming the respiratory part of the system. Now, after discussing about respiratory organs, students, now I will explain about the mechanism of breathing. But before that, I will enlist some essential points in this. First of all, there is breathing or pulmonary ventilation, by which atmospheric air is drawn in and carbon dioxide rich alveolar air is released out. Then there is diffusion of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide across alveolar membrane. The third is transport of gases by the blood. Next is diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide between blood and tissues. So, now we will start with mechanism of breathing. So, there are two important stages of breathing. One is inspiration and other is expiration. In inspiration, atmospheric air is drawn in and alveolar air is released out during expiration. Inspiration can occur if the pressure within the lungs is less than the atmospheric pressure. It means that there is negative pressure in lungs with respect to the atmospheric pressure. Similarly, expiration takes place when the intrapulmonary pressure is higher than the atmospheric pressure. Now, inspiration is initiated by contraction of diaphragm, which increases the volume of the thoracic chamber in the anterior posterior axis. The contraction of intercostal muscles lifts up the ribs and sternum, due to which there is increase in the volume of the thoracic chamber, which will lead to increase in thoracic volume and further causes increase in pulmonary volume. Now, I will explain about expiration. Now, for just notice that steps would be just reverse of inspiration. So, this can be shown that here the diaphragm will be relaxed. Intercostal muscles, they return the diaphragm and sternum to their normal position. Thoracic volume will be reduced and hence the pulmonary volume will be an increase intrapulmonary pressure slightly above the atmospheric pressure. This will lead to expulsion of air from the lungs. The strength of inspiration and expiration can be increased with the help of additional muscles in the abdomen. Now, can you tell what is the breathing rate of a healthy human? It is about 12 to 16 times per minute. To investigate the difference in composition between inspired and expired air, we use lime water because it changes color when the gas is bubbled through from colorless to milky. Now, there is more carbon dioxide present in expired air, which makes the lime water change color very quickly. Now, let us come to the most important terminologies of respiration. They are respiratory volumes and capacities. They are very important for clinical diagnosis. Now, respiratory volume and capacities, we have tidal volume, we are going to use TV for this. Another term is inspiratory volume, IRV. Now, volume capacities and their clinical significance. Tidal volume, the volume of air inhaled or exhaled in each breath during quiet respiration. Now, tidal volume, it falls with decrease in compliance, decreased ventilatory muscle strength. Then what is IRV? IRV is the maximum volume of air which can be inspired after a normal tidal inspiration, that is from end inspiration point. Now, effect of physical activity on breathing. Tidal volume, it is the amount of air during normal relaxed breathing. Vital capacity, it is the maximum amount of air breathed in or out in one breath. During normal breathing, the tidal volume is around 0.5 liter and the rate is 12 beats per minute. And during exercise, depth is 5 liter depending on the age, sex, size and fitness of person, and the rate is over 20 breaths per minute. The total lung volume is greater than vital capacities, as some of the air always remains in the lungs. If it is not there, the alveoli walls would stick together and the lung would collapse. So, respiratory capacities, one is the vital capacity, it is the total amount of air that can be inhaled and then exhaled with maximum effort. It is an important measure of pulmonary health. Then another is inspiratory capacity, maximum amount of air that can be inhaled after a normal tidal expiration. Another term, functional residual capacity, it is the amount of air remaining in lungs after the normal tidal expiration, and total lung capacity, it is the maximum amount of air in the lungs which can be retained. So, this can be shown with a graph also, the lung capacity. Expiratory reserve volume is residual volume, and then inspiratory capacity is tidal value plus inspired residual volume. Then expiratory capacity is TV plus ERV. Now, functional residual capacity is equal to ERV plus RV. Then vital capacity or VC, it is ERV plus TV plus IRV, and the total lung capacity is equal to VC plus RV. So, students, we can conclude the topic by summarizing it, that what we have done? We have done what is the meaning of breathing and respiration, what are the different types of respiratory organ in different group of organisms from protozoa to vertebrates, then what are the different definitions, the respiratory organ of human being in detail, and how the oxygen and binding of hemoglobin takes place, and how carbon dioxide is given out from the body. In the next lecture, we are going to read about the exchange of gases within the human body. Thank you.